Hi. Hey guys, it's been 2 years since my last video on this channel, and I've been thinking about making this video for a long time, but I wanted to wait for the right time to do it, as my last video was very controversial, and I've wanted to do a follow-up pretty much since the day it came out, because I think I handled things pretty poorly in terms of the video itself, and just my kind of response to it, specifically how I responded to people in the comment section. But I do think it has a lot of validity in what I said. It's just that the way I went about it was pretty bad. So if you haven't seen that video, you won't really have to, because I'm going to be playing it and reacting to it here. This is kind of going to be like a reacting to myself video. Now, if you have seen that video, then you'll know that I was very aggressive in my wording and the way I talked, and I sounded very angry in that video. I just want to kind of give like a preface here to say like, that was kind of me putting on an act. Anyone who kind of knows me, speaks to me, raids with me, ever watched my stream back in the day, which, hey, if you're here from years ago, hi, I'm still alive. You'll know that I'm just like that's not who I am. And I very specifically made that choice to be like angry man, kind of because I thought it would be more entertaining. And so I wanted to create a discussion video with a more entertaining edge. And since I was kind of bashing the game, no, I really bashed the game. I wanted to spin it in a way that was like, ooh, look how mad he is, and maybe that would get people to pay attention to it. Which I think was probably the wrong decision, so this video, I'm definitely not going to be that way. I'm not going to be Mr. Angry Man, so I'm just going to be a lot more level-headed in here, just to warn you guys. But still a little bit silly, and you can see I'm smiling, so we're gonna have some fun with this. So this video is called The Downfall of Final Fantasy XIV, and you can see notoriously I had a pretty bad like to dislike ratio, which this isn't actually showing the full story because this is the return YouTube dislike, which is not always that accurate. So I'm gonna leak the stats here because I personally just kind of find it funny. I'm not someone who gets too bothered about the negative comments or anything like that. So the true like to dislike ratio is actually pretty much worse than that. It's at 35%. So clearly a lot of you guys didn't like it, but again, I don't take this stuff too personally. And what I said in the video, I felt like was pretty true to how I feel. So there you go. If you ever were interested in the controversial number, there it is. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. I was Lynx Kameli. So the very first few frames of the video, I already need to preface this. I do still play the game, and I definitely framed this video as if I didn't or that I quit forever. But I do still play the game, and the reason I ended up deleting my character is I just kind of ended up realizing I didn't like the attention I was getting in-game from being a creator. People started noticing me in the game, and I started getting, like, hey, can we take a screenshot together? I watch all your videos, adding to my friends list, please. Like, I just realized, like, the person I am, I just don't really like that kind of attention. And I don't really want to be recognized or noticed or whatever when I'm just trying to like relax and play. It's no secret that a large amount of 14 players are die-hard lovers that will not accept any criticism or negativity towards their perfect game. That's still true, but it's not that many. Problem they have with the game, they have to keep adding disclaimers that everything is fine out of fear of invoking the wrath of the FF lovers.
This is such a waste of potential because this dungeon could probably be badass, but instead they're going to make it brain dead easy to cater to casuals, and that's fine. That's fine. A vast majority of their content is so that anybody can do it. And while that's good, and I'm not saying that they should take it away, they need to add some stuff that is a little harder, that not everybody can do it. I'm not saying they need to,
Okay, so the Xeno situation. That's the title of the drama video, right? The Xeno situation. No, I just want to say, first of all, I really don't hate Xeno. That's not the point of what I was doing here. Xeno was somebody I really looked up to when I was getting into Final Fantasy. I was 16 years old when I started playing this game, all the way back in 2016, and he was making very good tanking videos, tanking guides on warrior tanking, and the raid guides he did. He was somebody I looked up to. Full no type of ego here. I really wanted to be like Xeno. But I think Xeno here in this clip is doing something that many creators do, especially in the 14 scene, which is that they are very much tiptoeing around the idea that the game is not what they want it to be or hope for it to be. And again, this is not something Xeno does, like I'm trying to single him out here. I could have picked a lot of different creators. But, you know, that kind of like, hey, I don't really like this, but if you do, it's fine. However, there's this problem. If you think it's a problem, you know, I think maybe we could try this, but not at the expense of that. You know, like that kind of talk is very common in these kind of YouTuber spaces, and that's what I was trying to call out here. It was just that kind of like tiptoeing around the problem that I think you end up just hurting your own argument, because if you're going to have an opinion, I think you should just have it. If you're going to continually be like, hey, here's my opinion, but if you don't share it, don't hurt me, like, dude, you kind of got to be able to take the flag for it, or else we'll just never get any discussion going, because you'll just have two people going, that's my opinion, but you can have yours, and that's my opinion, but you can have yours. It's like, then there's no, like, you know, I'm trying to there's no pushing in either direction. It's just two people slapping their heads together and going, cool, dude, love that we slapped our heads together, bye. Like, you kind of need to argue and defend your position a bit, which I think Xeno didn't do here. But this was 2 years ago, so fair enough. How far into this video? Oh my god, I'm 2 minutes in this video. This is a 20-minute recording, guys. This is going to take forever. I'm cutting a lot of this out, by the way. Sorry if the video chops around. For anyone that has played FF14 for longer than one expansion, we all know that this game operates on an extremely strict by-the-books formula with zero surprises. They did change that up this expansion a little bit by adding the 24-man raid. What was it called? Chaotic? I never did it, I'll be honest. I just did not want to go through the pugging nightmare that seemed like. I'm much more of a static player. I very, very rarely ever pug raids in the game. So I never was like, let's do that. But from what I saw on Twitch, people either loved it and it was like the best content they've ever introduced, or they wanted to blow everybody in that raid's brains out because one person dies, wipes the group, and it's over, and you have 24 morons who can't do a single mechanic like an in and out. That's what I saw. Again, I never did it, but whether it was good or bad doesn't matter. They did try to do something different. Personally, from somebody who never did it, I don't think we should see it again. That's my opinion. Every expansion has 3 Savage Raid tiers, 3 Alliance raids, 2 trial bosses at launch, and a new one every major patch, accompanied with a new dungeon. I mean, there is zero room for going above and beyond. Just stick to what has always been delivered.
True.
And people are just simply getting tired of it. There is definitely... I think this, more than anything, is really where I've been wanting to make this specific video, which is that the story of Final Fantasy has shielded the game from criticism for many, many years, because any type of content-driven discussion on class design, content design, difficulty, whatever, was always kind of dismissed, not ignored, but dismissed a little bit by like, that's not really the focus of the game, though. The focus is on the story. And when the story didn't really land like it didn't for Dawntrail, for many people, whether you liked it or not doesn't matter. The truth of the fact is that many people didn't like Dawntrail's story. The content was the only thing left to really hold it together. And without going too deep into it, because I want to go further into this video before we talk too much about Dawntrail content, I think it really opened people's eyes to like, wait, this is the game I've been playing, and this is what it's like when the story's bad. When the story is not like carrying my emotions and my desire to play, I'm going to quit. And we saw that with the subscription numbers from Lucky Bancho. And before you say that that's an unofficial, you're an idiot. No, it's absolutely a very good metric for population numbers. Correlation is more important than actual factual matter. Like you can see this like to dislike ratio was still negative and shows the correlation between whether people liked the video or not, even though the actual numbers were worse. So the correlation of the Lucky Bancho numbers shows us that, yeah, people did drop off in Dawntrail. In a lot of people did. And I think that was a lot to do with the fact that the story was what people were playing for. And then when it's not there, then the reason they want to play the game is gone, and the content is not enough to back up the game. But we'll get deeper into that later. No longer am I sitting at the edge of my seat watching every live letter stream theorizing with my friends on what they'll announce next. I know what's coming. Another 24-man raid. One new dungeon. This is just true, by the way. I mean, it doesn't matter if you dislike or don't agree with me here. It's just the fact. The game has become much less exciting than it has been in the past. There are things worth getting excited for, right? Like, I personally like limited jobs. I loved Blue Mage, and I am looking forward to Beastmaster. The problem is they announced it 2 years ago. Like, and it's still not here. Am I like jumping for joy? I saw the live letter and it's, or the fan fest, and it said Beastmaster coming in Dawntrail, and I said, yeah, and the very final patch, like Blue Mage did too. Cool. This brand new expansion piece of content is going to take 2 years to manifest and then be ignored for another year before they give it 10 more levels. Like, I know how it goes. How do I know that's going to be how Beastmaster goes? Because that's what they did with Blue Mage, and this game is crazy formulaic. So it's just true. It's just true. The formula, like, you need to switch it up. There's a philosophy in ARPG games like Path of Exile and Diablo, and even like games like League of Legends, where sometimes just shaking up the meta just because is a good idea. Because even if the meta is in a good place, people get bored. It gets stale. It gets repetitive. And you're just like, dude, I just want something a little different. Which I don't think chaotic was the answer. Like, no. We need something more than just a 24-man raid randomly. Like, no, you need to change the formula. Veteran players that have been around for a few cycles of the 14 formula are just getting burnt out. And Arthur's, you can see the bottom right here, Arthur's made a good point on this, which is that he kind of corrected the way I said it, which is that it's not burnout, but it's apathy. You know, people are just kind of like, eh. It's not that people are burnt out, because burning out would mean like you're doing it too much. There's too much of it, and therefore you're burning out. But that's not very accurate. It's more true to say that we're just apathetic. We just don't care anymore. Like, yeah, dude, the new 24-man's coming out, the new Alliance raid. Woohoo! There's not going to be like the other 15 that I've done in the past. Like, I've seen an Alliance raid, they're boring. Period. Where is Endwalker's Eureka and Bozja equivalent? And we got one in Dawntrail, and it's actually terrible. It's terrible. I mean, I'm not going to hold your hand and lie to you, bro. It's terrible. I thought it was terrible. I don't know. There's nothing more to say. Do you want me to go deeper into the criticism? It was just running around and doing fates. It was terrible. They've literally devolved from Bozja. Bozja was way better. And even Bozja was like, eh. So, yeah. Let's just cut the Eureka content, the open world. Why can't I level in there? Hello? Dude, I don't even know what this expansion's Bozja was called, and I actually have the relics from it. What is it called? Occult Crescent. That's right. Dude, it was so bad I didn't even remember the name. Yeah, I thought it was so boring, dude. The phantom jobs were just like, press a random button every 30 seconds, cool bog. Like, it was nothing, bro. There was nothing there. Topic 2. Repetition breeds apathy. Beyond just sticking to the formula for content releases, FF14 has also lost all creativity when it comes to encounter design. I was definitely wrong about this. Yo, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not trying to be like Mr. Apology here, but yo, was I wrong about this. Full credit where it's due, bro. Dawntrail fight design has actually been excellent. I'm not even gonna cap. I'm not here to shit on the game. Dude, Dawntrail fight design has been really, really, really good. They absolutely learned from Endwalker and Shadowbringers, and like, they were like, hey, we can make bosses fun again. I can't even complain. Well, okay, I was going to say, like, there's still not a ton of, like, boss positioning that matters in the fights, but, you know, in the second phase, or the second floor bosses, that has been the truth, that boss positioning and boss movement was a really big deal. So, no, that's not even true. No, Dawntrail's just been good. I think Dawntrail's just been good. The raids of Dawntrail have been good. I'm not even going to lie. I liked the trial bosses. I've done them all. I really enjoyed getting the wings for them. I liked the raids. I'll be honest and say I didn't do the second tier. I did the first and now the last tier of Savage, but the second tier I was just, I wasn't too deep into it. But it's been great. The dungeons bosses have been a lot better. Some of the best dungeon bosses we've seen in the entire game have been this expansion. And so I think the fight design is absolutely, I was wrong. However, we're about to get into the main meme of this video, where I will defend a position that is maybe not too popular. Let's get into that. Every mechanic is just a random combination of group stacks, prey markers, tether grabbing, limit cut, tower soaking, or God forbid, clock spots. By the way, this is still true. Okay, listen. I glazed Dawntrail's fight design. It is really good, but this is absolutely still true, right? They can both be true at the same time. I think for me, well, let's continue the video. We'll get into the thing. and then we'll talk about the overall fight design. However, I think this is just true. This is still true. We still see a lot of repetitive mechanics. But let's continue. All you have to do when learning a new Final Fantasy XIV boss is find the safe spot, because do you know what every FF14 mechanic in existence is? Stand and let thing resolve. Oh, buddy, if I could tell you the amount of times I've heard that in the past 2 years. Stand and let thing resolve, boy. Yup. Okay, where do we even start with this? First of all, let's let the video play a little bit more, so you can see what this means if you haven't watched this video. I'm gonna describe what stand and let thing resolve means, and then we're gonna fight a little bit. Okay, let's continue. Seriously, when I had this realization is when I lost all interest in FF14 encounter design. Stand and let thing resolve. That is every mechanic. There is no innovation to the gameplay, just simply a new twist on stand and let thing resolve. Where other MMOs have moving platforms that require careful jumping,
we're gonna come back to this.
Boss attacks that can be
we're gonna come back to
countered,
this.
Which dynamically changes the fight every pull, or using height and gravity
we're gonna
to
come
create
back to
fun
this.
moments. All FF14 has is stand and let thing resolve. Grab the tether and let it resolve. Go to clock spots and let it resolve. Hide behind the rock and let it resolve. And this repetition of reusing old mechanics over and over on top of a non-changing gameplay formula leads to apathy. Okay, let's continue. No longer are we challenged and
we're almost there
to improve our gameplay ability. We are simply tasked with finding the safe spot and standing there until the thing resolves. And challenge... Yeah, so this is a big topic. If I've been editing the video to cut a lot of the beginning out, and this is the longest part, then yeah, we're gonna have a lot to say here. Okay, I'm full camming for this because this is a big discussion. Let's start with this. Do I agree with what I said in the video? Yeah, I still do. You know what? Even with saying that Dawntrail's fight design is really good, I do believe stand and let thing resolve is true. It is absolutely true. However, do I agree that it's a bad thing, like I made in the video? Yes and no, because the reason I think Dawntrail has done such a better job of fight design is for one simple reason, and it's just that the speed is faster. I really think that's like the only thing, to be honest, that they've done differently. Aside from lowering or making the boss's hitboxes smaller so that the mobility in the fight actually matters. The fights are just faster now. Like a lot faster now, especially M11S, which is my favorite of the expansion, is a lot faster than it used to be. I mean, wow. This is not the pace of which FF14 bosses used to be. And that's good. And that's kind of all it needed, to be honest. Just the fact that, like, stand and let thing resolve, which, let's get into some counter arguments to that. I saw a lot of counter arguments in saying that you're just essentially boiling the game down to, like, Dark Souls is just hit and dodge, which I can see the correlation, but I disagree with that on specific stance, because there are so many different ways to interact with an enemy in a game like Dark Souls or Elden Ring beyond just hitting them and dodging them. Like, you can roll, you can block, you can parry, you can riposte, you can break their stamina and then make them go down and get a backswing, or run around them and get a backstab. Like, there are many different ways to interact with an enemy in a game like Dark Souls and Elden Ring where hit and dodge is not all there is. There's, like, way more interactive ways to engage with the mechanic. In Final Fantasy, though, there isn't. And yes, that's just the nature of the fact that this isn't a single-player action RPG, right? Like, you have a more scripted style of fight design by necessity, I think. I don't know if an MMO like Elden Ring's combat would even work. I know Where Winds Meet tried that a little bit, but it ended up just being everybody zergs the boss down, and sometimes you have to hit your parry key. So I don't necessarily think stand and let thing resolve is the end of the world, but it absolutely is there. It still is true, and the reason why it's true is because the entire game revolves around standing in a specific spot on the arena to not die. And that's really that's like the whole entire game is, were you standing in the right spot? No, you're dead. And other games, especially other MMOs, which I was comparing to earlier, so let's get back to the video. Other MMOs like Guild Wars 2 have literal moving platforms that you yourself have to jumping puzzle your way through. You can argue that Final Fantasy has some type of moving platform design, but it absolutely does not have it like this, where you are literally parkouring, jump puzzling through the boss. Like, there's just nothing like this. And I think this level of interactivity is super fun. But we don't see it in 14, engine, whatever. I don't care the reasons why. It's just that's the truth. On top of that, with countering an enemy, you can see that this guy here, his name is Volton in the game Lost Ark, is about to charge. He's getting ready to charge forward. And if you get hit by the charge, you take damage and you fly into the air. However, he glows blue. What does that mean? You can use an ability to cancel that mechanic from happening. Boom. Counterattack. He literally won't do an attack now. This is a little bit more of like that interactivity, which you can say that the game like Elden Ring does have, where you can either dodge the attack by moving behind Volton, or you can take a more heads-on approach, get in front of him, risk taking damage, but if you land the counterattack, actually get a punish window and do more damage. That level of interactivity of like, what do you want to choose? If you're a ranged player, like if you're playing a mage or some type of ranged character in the game, you might not want to counterattack because you can still land all your damage while he's charging and it's not a problem. You don't want to have to lose that GCD, which I know Lost Ark doesn't necessarily have GCDs, but you don't want to lose that damage to do a counterattack when you can just keep attacking and the boss charges and who cares. If you're a melee player like this guy is here, which I think he's bussing, by the way, L Busser, then you do want that because if the boss charges, you lose uptime and you can choose to make that not happen or you can avoid it. So that level of interactivity is just something we don't see in FF14, especially in the World of Warcraft example, which I show next, which is that using... I know this is like kind of a bad angle here of the fight, but what they're doing is these characters have bombs on their head, and they need to jump into this pillar to blow it up away from their team down here at the bottom. And then when they get blown up by the bomb, it knocks them 1,000,000 feet into the air, and they're flying through the sky. And like, is that a crazy mechanic? No. Is it difficult? No. But it's interesting. It's fun. It leaves a little bit of like, there's more to it than just go stand here and then you avoid the damage or you don't die. It's like, hey, look at the bomb on your head, time it, look at that timer, and jump in at the right time to blow yourself out the hole like you're a freaking cannon. And if you do it wrong and you jump in too early, you'll fall and die to your death. Like, you won't be able to blast yourself out. So that level of interactivity in FF, we don't see it. I mean, this is the epitome of the game, is stand in this line or die. Go this position here or die. Like, there's not that level of interactivity that we see in other MMOs, and that's why I think stand and let things resolve is true. It's absolutely true. The saving grace, though, of stand and let things resolve is that by increasing the speed, like Dawntrail did, the game is a lot more action-y. It's not that it's become more interactive, but it's just become a much more quicker paced reactive game, which I think stand and let things resolve does a good job in, which is that, yes, there are safe spots and you do have to find them. And if you're not in the right place, you'll just die. But finding that safe spot, you need to be a lot quicker at it. You need to get there. You know, your character might not be fast enough. You better hit that sprint, buddy, or you're dead. And I think that's where, like, okay, you know what? If we are not going to have that level of interactivity where you can decide how a boss does his mechanics or position them in a way to make certain things happen differently, then just make the game faster and make it more twitchy and actiony, because I'm going to have to find a safe spot and I'm going to have to stand there, and that's all I'm going to have to do. But if it's a lot quicker and I have to get there a lot faster, then it brings a level of tension, brings a level of activity and like, okay, I got to go there now, which the game, I think, did not have in Endwalker. So I will defend stand and let things resolve. I think it's a good argument. I think it makes sense when you understand what I'm trying to describe, which is that, grabbing a tether and standing still is not interactivity. It's just standing still with a thing. And the way to make that more interactive, which is like not really interactivity, but just to make it more fun, is to just make it quicker. Make me having to do the things much faster so that I'm much more reactive and I'm not so proactive. That was one of the big problems I had with the game design as well, which was that a lot of the fights were so proactive, where like you would open up on your second monitor a sheet of where you're supposed to stand for a mechanic. And yes, this still happens, don't get me wrong. This is not like eviscerated from the game, but you have to be a lot more reactive now. But the point I'm trying to make is that you would have this picture up on the second monitor, or even like 10 of them. You would scroll through your tabs and try to find what mechanic you're on. And you would know like 45 seconds in advance where you had to stand. And then the mechanic would show up. You would go to that place on your monitor. Okay, I had to stand in this little here with this little line of the floor. Boom, I lived the fight. Next tab. Where do I stand next? Oh, I go up to the top right. Okay, do my rotation for another 30 seconds, then go to the top right. And I think that this expansion has done a much better job of not allowing that type of thing to happen. Yes, it still does. But with the amount of variance of what mechanic you can get, what time you can get it, where in the rotation it happens in terms of like, okay, it's happening in DPS 1, DPS 3, DPS 4, DPS 2, and just what that does changes where you actually go. To me, it led to a lot of like, okay, this is a much more actiony, twitchy, more reactive game than one where I'm just looking at raid plans and it tells me exactly where to stand 5 minutes in advance. Again, yes, that still is there, but less so. And so in that sense, I think Dawntrail is vastly improved. And if we're not going to see the level of interactivity in other MMOs, like height, like moving around the arena and in a more, kind of jump puzzly way, then keep up the speed. Because standing still for 5 seconds until something knocks me back into the place I need to be, and then standing still for another 5 seconds as it plops the thing on my head, it just wasn't fun. And that's where I stand on stand and let things resolve. And now I'm going to let that resolve, okay? Wow, I'm a loser. Let's continue. And challenge in FF14 has actually been going backwards. The game is not even maintaining the difficulty it used to have, but actually making everything easier and easier. Okay, this is, again, I don't want to go too deep. I just went on a mega rant on stand and let things resolve. So let me just say this is my piece really quick. I don't agree with that. In Dawntrail, I do think they've done a better job of making the fights, I wouldn't say more difficult. I don't think they're more difficult. I don't think Savage is more difficult. In fact, I think FRU or FRU, the ultimate, Eden's, what is it called? Anyway, the Eden ultimate was probably the easiest ultimate in the game. With Uwu though, okay, maybe it's second easiest, but yeah, so my point is not that the whole game has just become, and now it's harder. Because I don't think it is. And I don't even think that the Savage fights are harder, even though they are better. I just think they're more fun. So I don't agree that the game is getting easier anymore. I think it's maintained its level, but it's more fun, and that's good. Topic 3. It wasn't always like this. I understand that I might be coming across as... Back in my day! It was always like this, by the way. I was wrong about this. Yeah. A bitter old man yelling at kids for having fun. I'm only 24, by the way. Yo, I'm 26 now! Let that sink in. You don't know how fast time flies until time flies, I'm telling you. Scheisse. Alright, let's continue. But trust me, I absolutely despise nostalgia lords who blindly think everything was better in the past. I still agree with that, by the way. I like to use the past as a point of comparison, but I know that Heaven's Word, Stormblood were not like these pinnacles of gaming achievement. They absolutely had their problems. I would not want a Heaven's Word classic or anything like that. Like, the game has gained in some ways and lost in other ways. That's nuance for you. The game is not just like gotten overall worse. Dude, I'm struggling after that bottle of water. However, we can empirically say that Final Fantasy has only gotten easier with every expansion. I think that was true until Dawntrail. Class design has completely stagnated and lacks any growth at all. I mean, it blew my mind that First of all, before we continue the next sentence, because that was a controversial sentence, yeah, I still think class design is pretty dumpster mode. I'm gonna have more to say about this in a second, but yeah, I don't think class design has gotten better in Dawntrail. It's gotten worse. So again, like, fight design better, class design worse. Let's continue. Actual popular opinion these days is to make combo skills just one button that you spam over and over. Yeah, great idea, geniuses. You know, what if we just made every class have one ability called the I win button? Maybe then you could convince yourself you're a good player. You see, like, this is where I disagree with myself from the wording. I do think a one-button combo is pretty dumb. I don't support it. I don't think it's a good thing for the game. I just don't think it's good. Like, if you're adding in one-button combo, then, like, why are combos there? Just delete combos at that point and make a more dynamic system rather than... And by the way, I do think they should delete combos. Hot take. Hot take. I think combos should be deleted from the game, and we should move to a new melee system. Even, like, machinist range. Like, I just think combos are... It's over, okay? It's over for combos. Hashtag combos are over party. Because they're just boring now. Am I the only one? Like, why are combos still in the game? They're so rigid. They're so, like, restrictive. They make you into having to meld a very specific skill speed to hit your 60-second loop, which if there's any downtime at all, then you're delaying abilities and everything's drifting and I'm not in the right place in my rotation for my buff window. Like, just delete combos, make a more fluid melee system with a more of like a priority rotation. I think combos it's a dinosaur feature, okay? I know what I'm basically asking for is, can you rework all melees ever, please? Thanks, Square Enix. I really appreciate you just making new classes for free. But yeah, if I had my way, which I don't, I would just say scrap combos entirely. Hot take, but I do think, I just swallowed my own spit. Yo, whoever just sent that down my throat, fuck you, man. It's just an opinion, okay? You don't have to try and kill me. Preach Gaming used to have a philosophy on class design he called moments of glory, where classes were not meant to be jacks of all trades, but instead have moments and encounters where their specific class had an area to really shine and do something special. True, though. Where are modern-day FF's moments of glory? Pressing Fell Cleave 5 times in a row? Yeah, that's real interesting and unique. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Like, this is just the dumbest shit, bro. Okay, I'll stand by that. I'm a warrior player. I don't want to press Fell Cleave 5 times in a row. Here's my philosophy, okay? The less you press a button, the cooler it is. Especially if it does a lot of damage. Therefore, this influx now of FF being like, you know that really cool button you have? What if you did it more? It's like, well, then it's not cool anymore. I don't like double mid-array Setsugeka, whatever the Tsubami Geisha, I think it's called, the one where you can do it twice in a row. Like, no, like mid-array should be a moment where I have a cast bar. I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like, it should be a moment that's cool. But when I'm just like mid-array button 2, Senna, sends, do it again, mid-array button 2, like, what the? It's not cool anymore. It's just a button I press and it makes a little sound. Like, the 6 fire 4s in a rotation is just like, dude, it's too much pressing the good button, you know? If I have a good button in the game, restrict me. Make it a big deal, because the cooler, or the less I use it, the cooler it is, okay? Try and find any other moment of glory on any other class. They don't exist. Except bosses that used to require plan. Okay, look. This section of the video was me playing a character. So I'm going to say some stuff in a very aggressive way with some very heavy music in the background. But again, I'm just really not that kind of person. I'm not that, like, you know what I mean? So let's remove the way I say it and focus on what I say, please, while I say this stuff, and then we'll discuss it. And movement, careful positioning, and a consideration for your melee DPS's positional skills have devolved into bosses with hitboxes. This was fixed in Dawntrail, but I still would like to see more dynamic movement in fights as a melee. Not the boss jumping around and deciding where he's going to go. Like, the tanks having to control the boss and positioning. More of that, please. The godforsaken wall boss. I still think wall bosses are absolutely abysmal. They're the least fun things in the game. Not even just from a tanking perspective, but like, am I the only person in the world who thinks infinite uptime is not fun? There should be moments where I'm not in melee range. There should be moments where I'm not in melee range. Fighting a training dummy with mechanics going on is less fun than having a dynamic encounter with an enemy that I'm aware of. This is a boss. This is an enemy. This is a person. It's doing something. Yes, it's an AI, but like, you know what I mean? I want to feel that I'm engaging with a combatant, not just fight the floating tree and his hitbox is as wide as the universe. Dude, no. Like, I want to fight a combatant, please. where boss movement is literally impossible. You know, I might as well just be punching the air with how little the actual enemy I'm fighting matters in an encounter. Agree. Raid buff abilities that used to have varying cooldown lengths requiring planned and coordinated burst timing to maximize damage on an encounter have devolved into every buff skill either having a 60-second or 120-second cooldown, completely removing the planning of burst windows. I know the 2-minute meta at this point has been talked to death, so I'm going to say my piece really quick and just say that I absolutely found mistimed buffs really, really fun. And it was one of the main enjoyments of optimization in a fight that I had, which was keeping in mind 60-second buff window, 90-second buff window, 2-minute buff window, 3-minute buff window, and all the differences in how much potency gain I'm getting, which would change my decision-making on, like, where should I use my potion? Where should I pop my major cooldowns? What should I be pooling? When should I dump my resources? Like, that was a lot of fun to me, and it's not in the game anymore, and I will forever be mad at that until it comes back. Either delete raid buffs entirely, or delete the 2-minute meta. That's my opinion. I think the 2-minute meta is dog, and I think most of you would agree by now, so we don't have to harp on that. Let's continue. Windows. And there's still so much more! The complete irrelevance of enmity and removal. Should enmity come back? Probably not. That's all I have to say. Yeah, I was going to say more, but no, probably not. Of tank stances, healers being completely gutted into... We all agree with this, right? Healers did get gutted. Healer DPS is just boring now. Like, every class is put dot and press your 1 damage skill. We need more. We just need more, okay? We just need more. Healer damage, with how important it is in the game, it cannot be this boring, bro. You just can't. I don't know who at Square Enix is like, please make the thing that the healers do the most of the least interesting part, but it should be the other way around. Like, hello, make the damage the more fun part if you're going to make me do 75 to 85% of my GCDs being damage in a raid encounter. Why is it the most boring part? That makes no sense. You don't understand. Continue. Only having 2 damage skills, DPS classes having unique and interesting targeted utility skills like Mana Shift and Palisade deleted from the game. I love these abilities. I get why they were removed, because if you look at a button like Palisade where it reduces physical damage taken by a party member, they ended up designing tank busters in the game that needed these abilities, and if you're going to require them, then why are they there? That's kind of the philosophy I always have, which is like, if you are requiring an ability to be used on a specific encounter or a specific mechanic, then it doesn't become an interesting choice anymore. The only time it becomes an interesting choice is if there's multiple you have to do in which you decide where do I want to put it, right? But that's not how the game works. Tank busters and FF are so far apart that even with a 150-second cooldown timer, you are still only needing that for a tank buster. The example I'm specifically thinking about here, which if you did it, you would know, is O10S, the dragon, Midgard Stormer, I believe his name. And that boss, still to this day, probably has the hardest hitting tank buster in the world. I can pull it up for you. So you can see he's doing his tank buster right now. It's called Tail End. Check the health bar up here. I'm going to full screen this so you can see it even better. Look at his health bar up here, okay? Do you see that? And how much mint does he have here? Shadow Wall, 30%. Rampart, 20%. I didn't see if he got any party buffs, but why did it go to like 3 quality? Hello? Anyways, this buster was the heaviest hitting tank buster in the game, and it just required Palisade at a certain point, because even with both of your major cooldowns, Rampart and Shadow Wall, you were still taking your whole health bar in one buster. And so, yeah, when that becomes the design decision of like, hey, here's something where you must Palisade or you die, then it's like, bro, that's not an interesting decision. Mana Shift, though, absolutely should be in the game. I'm very, very upset that this is not in the game, and I think it should be, because transferring MP to another party member is like, you're not needing to do that. It's not a requirement of a mechanic, and it helps with recovery of healers when they die, or if they have to res a lot, or if they overspent mana AoE healing. Just being able to like, hey bro, you're my healer, have 20% mana. Like, W. W. And if your argument is that mana economy should matter, and like having mana shift in the game means that mana economy is no longer a big deal because you can just give mana to healers for free, and you either have to balance around mana shifting or balance around never getting a mana shift, but it's there, which makes you have infinite mana. My response is sug on D's, and mana economy in FF is never, ever, 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 not even once in the entire history of the game, ever been a big deal. Even now, in a world where we play with zero piety builds, you are still overcapped on mana in a correct encounter, meaning no mistakes and no deaths and not needing to res people. The time where mana economy matters is only on progression or only on wipe recovery or like death recovery. In a case where mana shift would be very, very useful and cool. To say, hey, we are in a dire situation. My healer is actually running out of mana for the first time in the past 5 fights. Here's some mana, and I'm now helping you. That's cool. So, mana shift hurts me a lot, and I'm not even a caster. Cross-class abilities that use... Cross-class, I loved. Some people hated it. The argument against cross-class was that it required you to level up other classes that you may not be interested in to get abilities that are important. So, for example, like needing to level Paladin for Provoke to play Warrior, which some people didn't want to do because they're like, I'm a Warrior. Why do I need to level up Paladin? But my counter argument is that fundamentally, I think FF14 is a multi-classing game, and because you can play every class on one character, it kind of incentivizes you to be a multi-classer, even if it's not to like raid with, just to play multiple classes. And what cross-class did was kind of give you an incentive to go out and experiment. And some of the classes that I literally had no interest in at all, but were forced to level for cross-class abilities, ended up being sleeper enjoyers that I actually really, really liked. So, for example, I was a Bard main when I first started playing the game before I swapped to Warrior. And to be a Bard main, you needed to cross-class Blood for Blood from Dragoon. I did not care for Dragoon at all. It wasn't interesting to me. It wasn't a class fantasy I was that interested in. I was never going to play it, but I had to because I needed Blood for Blood. And then when I got Blood for Blood, I was like, wait, Dragoon's actually kind of fun though. And I ended up leveling it all the way to 60 and playing it a lot. So I think cross-class was like a good, maybe not the perfect solution, but a very, very good system for incentivizing people to cross-class and experiment with a wider variety of the game's systems beyond just playing one single character in one class and never moving from that. So that's my opinion on it, but I'm not like beholden to it existing. Like if it doesn't exist, which it doesn't, like sure, but I thought it was good. Attribute points that added another. Yeah, so attribute points were one that I got pretty heavily clowned on in the comment section. And I think I can kind of understand why people would. So if you don't know what attribute points were, basically it was this. You would have a certain amount of points allotted to you while you were leveling your character, and then you could put in any of your main stats. Obviously, yes, for the vast majority of characters, you are just putting it in your main stat, right? So like, if you were a summoner, you put it all into int. If you were a damage class like a lancer, then you put it all into strength. Yes, that was absolutely true. However, my argument for it is that it was a RPG system in a slowly dying RPG game. Not dying in the sense of like player count, but I mean like we are losing RPG-ness. My RPG-ness. My RPG-ness is gone. We are losing RPG features, role-playing game features in FF14 over time, and attribute points to me were just like a level of flavor that even if they weren't a big deal and you did not think about them max level, it was still fun every 2 levels to get an attribute point and put it in while you were leveling, because it felt like, hey, I just got a new point to put in my character. It's kind of like a talent point, right? And I really love RPG systems in MMOs, like the World of Warcraft revamped talent trees, which I'll put on screen, are some of my favorite systems in a game. I played Lost Ark for many years after I made this video, and Lost Ark's tripod system, character building, build variety in an MMO, I think is like some of my favorite stuff in the entire world. I understand some people don't like it, but like, as I said, this barely mattered at all. You could engage with it to the level of which you cared about, which was put it all into your main stat and ignore it. Or, like me, when you were leveling up, it was just kind of fun to be like, hey, every 2 levels I get a new point, and it makes me a little bit stronger. Cool, it's like an RPG game. And we just lose that over time. So Yeah, I think attribute points are good. The greatest strength a game can have is being a game that is easy to learn but difficult to master. What happens when the game is easy to learn and easy to master? This is a bit hyperbolic. Absolutely, you can claim it as like, dude, you're talking shit. Because FF14 is not easy to master, not even close. But it just feels like it's going down that path with class design, where it's like, I'm going to say it in the video, but I'll even bring it up now, that like when a game is easy, that does not make bad players better. All it does is make good players have less fun or less of a skill cap, whichever you decide if that's fun or not for you. I'm a firm believer in the idea that if someone is bad at the game, it's because they are choosing to be bad. Not necessarily like, I'm going to be bad and ruin games, but like fundamentally, you're just not putting in the time, you're not putting in the effort, or you don't have the care to get better at it. Because if you are actively trying to be good at a game, you will be better at the game. Period. I think if you're one of those people that's like, nah, bro, I hang out with people that try so hard and they'll never be good, I would first of all say you're probably being a little harsh on your friends or the people you play with. And number two is that they're probably putting in less interest than you think they are. Or if you are someone who is putting in a lot of effort into a game and you're not getting better at it, you're probably underestimating your own skill level or over comparing yourself, or you're just not really learning the correct fundamentals and unable to apply them into the game, when if you had a better learning mechanism, then you would be better at the game. I am a firm believer that anyone can learn anything. This is pretty much backed by neuroscience 100%. Yes, people learn at different rates. This is true. But neurologically, there is nothing in your brain that says you cannot be good at something. It's just not true. I can die on that hill 100,000 times that anyone who wants to be good at a game can be good at a game. Anyone. Literally anyone. Aside from like actual, mental learning disabilities. It just comes down to your time and your effort spent and your interest in the game. And so the reason I bring all that up in the neurological side of it is that making the game easier, I believe, has been done out of an effort to introduce new players into higher end content, because FF14 has had for a very long time a low participation rate in high end content. Like very little percentage of the player base does Savage Raids or does Ultimate Raids. And so I think that making classes easier was the method of saying, you're going to have a less difficult time in this higher end content. You should go try it out. And I don't know the numbers, but I would venture that participation has either remained the same or hasn't improved, which I guess is the same thing. But I don't want to say participation has wavered, because it hasn't. But I don't think it's improved any type of like marginal noticeable percentage point. And so by just removing difficulty from the game in terms of class design, not fight design, but class design, you're just hurting the people who really want to be good at the game, and you're not benefiting the people who don't care because they don't care. A bad player will be bad because they choose to be, not because they're incapable of being better. So that's my whole rant on why I think simplifying classes is not a good thing. Let's continue. There isn't an infinite pool of new players you can constantly bring in. Eventually, and I think that's truer than ever. We've seen the new player pool, like the graph does not keep, the line does not keep going up. It has plateaued. I just think that the MMO market right now is so competitive. World of Warcraft is in the best spot it's ever been at. ESO is doing great. Guild Wars 2 is doing great. Final Fantasy XIV is slowly starting to look like the antiquated one, the old one, the one that needs to improve, when if you were to ask me back in 2020, I would have said that FF14 is the most progressive, not like politically progressive, but like futuristic terms of like design wise. This is what MMOs should be, MMO on the market back in 2020. And now in 2026, I think it's falling behind massively. We've seen games like Genshin Impact and Where Winds Meet kind of pushing MMOs in that seasonality direction, where it's less about singular big content updates and more of like monthly seasonal updates that come with little fun events. World of Warcraft is doing that. World of Warcraft right now is like adding a middle of the raid tier one-off boss that they've never like ever done in the past. Well, I mean they have, but I think they're learning from that idea of like, Final Fantasy XIV still is operating on the idea of every 7 months you get something big. And I just don't think that's where MMOs are right now. I don't think that's where MMOs are headed. It needs to be at a quicker pace with smaller bite-sized seasonal content that keeps me coming back for something exciting, and not just every 7 months is a new Savage boss, which it's not even anymore, right? Like we're at like 8.5 to 9 months now for a Savage tier, which is just ridiculous. But everything I loved about the game has either been removed or dumbed down to the point of being menial. That's extremely exaggerative. Yeah, L opinion there. As someone who got into the game for the unique class design and amazing raid encounters, I've had to sit and watch as all the interest in class design was... Dude, I'm gonna be honest, I don't even want to sit and watch this part of the video because goddamn am I whiny ass motherfucker here, bro. I'm gonna be honest. I'm cringing at myself. Slowly whittled away, making every class dull and homogenized. I've had to sit and watch as all the creativity and raid design slowly evaporated into a mishmash. Jeez, bro, cry me a river. Holy, it's just a video game. Who is the game made for? Cat moms who play 1 hour a month and spend that entire time crying because the pixels on the screen said a sad word? Yo, this got a lot of flack, by the way. And I'm just gonna say 2 things. Number 1, it's a joke. And I don't mean that to, like, take away blame from myself for making this joke and, like, deal with it, but more of, like, if you don't find it funny, cool. It's just humor, bro. I'm not trying to be serious. And on top of that, I'm not trying to be derogatory towards story enjoyers. I was very specifically making a caricature of an audience that doesn't exist. Cat moms that cry every time a word on the screen, every time a character on the screen says a sad word. Like, that is such an extreme exaggeration of a player type that I don't think is real. In a section of the video that's called "Who is this game made for?" implying that you're designing the game for a type of person that doesn't exist. When I put Laronity on the screen and her crying, I'm not shitting on Laronity. I watch Laronity all the time, by the way. I actually, like, she's like my main Guild Wars 2 content that I check out. So it's not a spite against her. I like her content and her as a creator. So my point was that you're designing for a person that isn't real. There is no cat mom that cries every time a character on the screen says a sad word. So if that's who the game is designing for, then they're failing, because that's not a person. That was the joke I was making. I recognize now, like, it's just kind of a dumb joke. But at the same time, I still find it kind of funny. It's a little funny because, again, it's not pointing towards anyone. It's just like, here's some crazy straw man caricature that you can't defend against because it's not even a real person. Leveling roulette mains who spend the entire expansion leveling classes that they will have no use for at max level. This one is actually true, though. I think this is a very, very large portion of the player base. Leveling roulette mains who just level classes, and you ask them why, and they go, I don't know. And I go, what do you do when they're max level? I don't know. Level the next one. So I'm like, wow, I don't know what you're doing in this game, but running in a hamster wheel, just leveling classes for some, like, what do you, to do expert roulette? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Leveling roulette mains absolutely boggle my brain, and they are real people, by the way. Roleplay mains who don't even do any content at all and spend their sub money dancing at player-made clubs? Look, I'm not trying to... Yeah, like, I'm about to say here, I'm gonna shit on those kinds of people. But if that's who the game is targeting, then why even bother making high-end raids? Why even... Like, I genuinely mean it, and even in this video, I genuinely meant it. And I know a lot of you guys in the comments didn't believe me when I said it, but, like, I genuinely meant it when I said I'm not trying to shit on those people. My point was that your game is not catering to the audiences that you think exist, because if you're catering towards the cat moms, they're not real people. If you're catering towards the leveling roulette mains, why have endgame content? If you're catering towards role players, why have any content at all and not just make this freaking Second Life or VR chat? But if you are catering towards raiders and content players and people that want to do dungeons, you're failing, was my opinion then. I think the raids have gotten better now. I will say the pacing is abysmal. Look, I'm I'm gonna keep it a buck. I got flack for this back in COVID with a terrible video talking about the content delay was dog shit, and I'll stand by that. That was a horrible ass take. In the modern day, though, these Savage Raids and Ultimates should not take as long as they do. They just shouldn't. I don't care the excuse. I don't care the reasoning. I don't care, oh, but the game's engine is made out of molasses and dog water and hot dog tape and mustard and glue, dude. So if I try to make the raid any faster, I'll literally burn the Square Enix offices down, man. Like, I don't care. It's 2026. Gaming is at a different place now. If you're making content this slow, you're going to get outcompeted. And I think we are seeing that. Other MMOs, not even just WoW, we're seeing other games, other MMOs, MMO lights are just like spewing out content like they're puking after a night out at the bar, okay? They're just shitting out content like it's made in a fucking like factory, bro. Just and FF14 still's like, please look forward to in 2 years you'll get an optional job where you can collect an NPC as a pet. It's going to take us 2 years. Like, what the how? How does it take you 2 years to make that? Sorry, but like, seriously, what the hell? So the content pacing is the problem. It needs to be quicker. I don't care why it's slow. I don't care the excuse. I don't care, we have to do so much work, please. Like, no. It's 2026, bro. Pick up the pace, okay? I'm sorry. That's my one toxic opinion. I don't give a fuck what the reason is. It needs to be faster. Period. By the way, I'm thinking about doing another video. I've kind of like slowly scripted it out, going specifically on class design. A lot of people don't understand that class complexity doesn't mean an increase in class difficulty. I know that when I say that, a lot of you are like, what the fuck did bro just spit? That's absolutely brain trash, like moron tier disgust. Like, but I do believe that to be true. I have supporting arguments. I might make another video on that. Back in the day, we had an ability, well, we still do, but we had an ability called Iron Jaws on Bard. And what it did was it reapplied your damage over time abilities so that when they were getting low, you would hit Iron Jaws, and then they would go back to their max duration. Back in the day, I'm talking about Heavensward here, the max duration for damage over time abilities on Bard were 18 seconds. So you were using Iron Jaws pretty often, 4 times a minute. Because you wanted to use it when they were at 3 seconds or lower. And the problem with that was raid buffs exist. So the majority, or I wouldn't say the majority, but your highest hitting GCD was Iron Jaws because your damage over time abilities would do more damage than your main filler combo, or main filler ability called Heavy Shot. And so if you were an optimizer, there were multiple windows within a fight where you would have to make the decision, do I use a Heavy Shot here, or do I use an Iron Jaws in a raid buff window to buff my damage over time abilities? And because there were offset timings on raid buffs, some were 90, some were 60, some were 120, some were 3 minutes, that meant there was a lot of random, I wouldn't say random, but there were different timings throughout a fight where you were getting a different potency increase. So if you were an optimizer, which I was a Bard player at the time that this was the thing, which is why it's the example I'm able to use, because this is the one that comes to my head when I think about complexity. I had an entire like notepad of all the raid buffs, how much potency they increase my Heavy Shot by, and how many seconds my dots would have to tick in order to beat a Heavy Shot. So how many seconds of a damage over time ability would an Iron Jaws, which is lower potency than Heavy Shot, have to tick for so that the lower potency Iron Jaws would win out against the Heavy Shot, because the damage over time component would end up doing exponentially more than the Heavy Shot, which was a one-time damage, because you know what I'm saying? If you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. However, if you weren't an optimizer and you didn't think about this at all, and you just pressed Iron Jaws whenever your dots were low, your damage loss was small. By optimizing the Iron Jaws Heavy Shot differential, you were gaining like 2% damage. But it existed. And it was so much fun. because I was constantly staring at the raid buff bar going, how many buffs do I have? How much potency am I gaining? And should I heavy shot here? When did I last reapply my buffs? Are my last dots buffed? Should I rebuff now or wait until the end, but then I get lower overall increase in potency, but then I have to not Iron Jaws twice? However, all I'm doing is pressing Iron Jaws or pressing heavy shot. That's the only thing that happens here. I'm not like pianoing the keyboard or like doing triple backflips. Like, I'm just making a decision in my head. Iron Jaws or heavy shot? And it was very complex. And I guarantee you 99% of players didn't care. But if you did, you would gain 2% damage. And so I believe that complexity is not intertwined with job difficulty. And I would like to see more complexity in that sense, where it's not some like crazy piano the keyboard, think for 1500 years on the next GCD. It's just like a small little, hey, if you do this and you care about this, then you can gain a little bit. But if you don't, it's not a big deal. That's where I think complexity for class design is important. Ugh, how long is this video going to be, man? I've been yapping for an hour 40 now. I hope that's not how long this video is. Let's continue. Then why are they removing all of the interest and challenge for players who do spend a large amount of time playing the game? Obviously, they're not. Obviously, they're not removing all of it. That's so hyperbolic, bro. That's so hyperbolic. But there either needs to be more or it needs to come faster. Because Savage raids are good right now. I think Dawntrail Savage is W. I like it. But I'm not farming the boss for 8 months, bro. You've got to be shitting on my ball sack and licking my nuts, bro. Like, because that's crazy. I'm not farming the same 4 bosses for 8 months. Are you fucking licking my toenail right now? Like, that's crazy. I'm not doing that. The path Final Fantasy XIV has been going down does not tangibly improve the game for new players, because eventually they too will become veterans and reach a point where there is no more challenge or interest in the game for them. By the way, I saw Asmongold disagree with that, and I think the proof is in the pudding that I was absolutely right about that point, because the Shadowbringers enjoyers who started playing back then in 2019 are now 2 expansions in and realizing, like, do I even like this game anymore? And guess where I was at this point in the game? I started in Heavensward, Stormblood happened, Shadowbringers happened. A 2 expansion timeline. So, what I'm trying to say is, I think the people who started in Shadowbringers, who may have disagreed with this video at the time, are now in a position to be like, actually, there's some truth here. Obviously not all of it. I'm very hyperbolic in this video, and I sound like fucking, I know what I'm talking about. But like, you know, the game needs to, you know. It's not perfect, and no game is, but I think there are some very, 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 very clear issues with 14 that are, like, not difficult to fix. Content pacing, obviously, is not an easy one. I'm not trying to say, like, just make faster, please. Like, no, that's definitely a systemic, like, team building and managerial issue. Why did I say issue? But things like class design, I don't think are that difficult. I don't know why they are so slow on class updates in this game. Like, it's actually silly. There's just like 3-year gaps between a class getting like 1 ability change. For the majority of the time, they just like, and then we increase the potency by 10. Class design, like, and I know in the next expansion we've been promised that they're doing something about it, but I mean, bro, it's Yoshi P. Can you really trust anything that guy says? It's a lot of PR marketing talk. I don't know what it'll look like in the next expansion, but in my opinion, I think class design is the weakest point of the game right now. I want to see a continual push in innovation and pushing the game forward, because between Shadowbringers and Endwalker, I think the game really stagnated hard in design. It just did not. It was like, I called Endwalker Shadowbringers 2. It just fundamentally was the same exact expansion again. And it's just not fun. It's not fun to just like, and then a new raid. And it's the same as the last one. And this one has Proteans. And this one has a tank buster, dude. Like, just do something a little, just shake up the meta, bro. Let's shake up the meta. I think at 14, if that's like the last thing I'm going to say in this video, because I'm near the end of this one and I don't really say anything, just shake it up, bro. Just shake it up. Is that a song? It reminds me of a song. Maybe I'm fucking delusional. No, that's got to be a song. Shake it up. Yeah. Just shake it up, bro. It's time. Okay, it's time. We've all been playing the game a long time now. I don't think many people are like new players in Dawntrail. I think most people playing 14 right now, if you ask them, started in Shadowbringers or Endwalker. And we're at that point where it's like, we're losing people to competition or just other games, or we're aging. Even I started at 16. I'm 26 now. I'm going to be 30 soon. And I'm still playing this game. It's just time to try something different, man. If you think about, like, in an allegory to World of Warcraft, for all intents and purposes, FF14 is still in its WoW Classic era. I know that in this video, and through the way I talk, I make it sound like the game has drastically changed. The fact of the matter is, no, it has not. It's still a very, very similar game to its Heavensward and Stormblood version, which is, for me, when the peak of the game was, specifically in Stormblood, which actually I hated the Stormblood Savage fights, and Ultimate was like the only thing that saved that expansion. So was there ever really a peak in 14? Maybe some of you will know. It's not Shadowbringers. I will slay you for that opinion. So the game is just at a point now where most of us have been playing it for a pretty long time. I think it's time to shake it up and try something new. I'm not saying like rework the whole game, because obviously this is not how MMO production works. But just try some different ideas, throw some things at the wall. Maybe try deleting combos. See what happens. Guess what? You always have a backup. I don't know why so many game designers are so afraid to hit the revert button. Like, just try something. And if it doesn't work, say, hey guys, we tried it, it didn't work. We're just going to go back to the old version. We're literally just going to revert to the Dawntrail classes. Sorry. I know you guys didn't like this. We'll cook up something new. Yeah, why not? That's my opinion. Thanks, guys, for watching. I might make another video on class design. I might be gone for another 2 years again. We don't know. Thanks for listening, and if you hate me still from this video, then I'm sorry. I'll never change your mind. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to, though. All right, bye.